Hello, hello, hello. So we've had some fantastic sessions here at Collective Creative Initiative this morning. We've now got something really exciting for you, which is an agent Q&A with the lovely David from Cowley, Knox Guy. We are very excited. Now, if you have any questions as the day goes on for David, then you are welcome to put them in the comments box. All you need to do is subscribe to the CCI YouTube channel, and you'll see a little live comments box as you go along. You can ask anything you need to, and we will read them out as we go. So I'm going to bring in David. Here we go. Hello.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, how are you today, David?
I'm very good. How are you?
Yes, not doing too badly at all, thank you. I wish that the weather was a little bit more closer to summer, but it's okay.
Yeah, but every day that goes past, we get closer to summer, don't we? Isn't that how it works?
That is true, yeah. Maybe we're just knocking the day.
But, you know, eventually it becomes summer.
Yes, so hopefully it will be. So you're basically here today to tell us all about you, about your life, about your experiences in the industry. So why don't we start at the beginning? Tell us how you started in the industry, what brought you into the theatre world.
Sure. Well, I'll try and avoid the full life story because we'll run out of time. I grew up a working class family in I was born in North London, but grew up just outside a tiny little place called Cheshunt in Hertfordshire. And I grew up without the option of becoming an actor. I didn't know that kids like me could be an actor. I thought it was for the theatrical families and the privileged and the rich. And I didn't. It wasn't an option. It wasn't anything on my mind. I just didn't know that was a possibility.
I think that's so important. It's something that's changing quite a lot at the moment, but I think we're trying to break down these whole stereotypes about it only being for the upper or the middle classes. And obviously we've got so many more outreach programs now to try and show everyone that it's not just a rich kid's game. But I think it's really important for us to make that clear that there are ways to do it if you are working class or if you don't have these massive financial packages to help you.
Yeah, 100%. So for me, it wasn't something on my mind. It was something that I did on like a Sunday night, like a youth theatre group. It was just a bit of fun. I was naturally a bit of a class clown and a bit of a show off, and so that lent itself quite nicely to doing drama on a Sunday night. Never a serious thing. It was just something that I did for fun, like a hobby. And then when it got to an age where I wanted to go to university, I knew that I wanted to get a degree. I didn't really know what I didn't know what I wanted to do afterwards, but looking at the options, performing arts was there, and it felt like something that I would enjoy, and also it would be far easier than all of the other degrees that were on offer. If I'm being completely honest, it was far less writing, far less thinking, and a lot of acting, singing, and dancing. So I thought, yeah, sign me up for that. Get me a degree, and then it wasn't until the third year that it even became a thought or a notion that I was potentially good enough to earn a career from it, and B, willing to or passionate enough to want to.
That's so interesting, because I think a lot of people that we know of in the industry always sort of say, yeah, I've loved it since I was 4. I've known since I was walking that I knew that this is what I wanted to do. So it's so nice. It's almost refreshing to hear a story of someone saying, yeah, I wasn't really sure straight away, and then to know that you can make the decision quite late on.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it was my sister. My sister, I should give you a background, grew up in the dance world. She was an amazing dancer. Actually, she went to the London Studio Centre.
Hey, represent.
And she graduated back in hang on. I graduated in 2000, so I think she was like 1999. So I'd seen her grow up and go through, as I'm sure you know, and lots of people there, all the dance competitions and the All Englands every year, and all the weekly competitions that I was dragged along to, and she was then going to training, and she was going to become kind of full-time performer, and then she had some difficulties when she graduated, and didn't end up going into it. And so in my mind, as I was going to university, I had the mindset it was going to be a difficult industry to get into as well.
Of course, which it still is.
Yeah, well, absolutely, of course. So yes, in my third year, I thought, wow, maybe this is something that I could pursue. But just to go back, I made a slightly bold life decision at the age of 18 to become a father. Not my own, obviously. My wife, who wasn't then my wife, was involved as well. So I became a dad at 18. And so obviously I couldn't prioritize my own career in performing arts. We both went to university. We both finished our degrees. We thought that was important. And then I had to think about the really boring grown-up things like mortgages and, getting married and settling down and getting a solid financial foundation. And so going into acting probably wasn't the most sensible idea at that point. So after graduating, I then ended up working in sales and marketing for about 5 years. You could argue that sales isn't a million miles away from acting, to be fair.
No, I think there's definitely a performance element to that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I wasn't very good at it because I didn't really want to do it, but I did that so I could get all the foundations in place. But I also knew it was important that, because I knew at some point I would be giving that up to be an actor, or at least attempt to be an actor. I knew that if in 5 years' time I started auditioning for stuff, I wanted to audition for stuff, and I had nothing on my CV. I mean, literally nothing on my CV. Then without training,
you just graduated, of course.
And with no formal training, no accredited training, and with nothing on my CV, I knew that would be very difficult. So I decided that throughout that 5 year period, whilst in the day job, I would take on as much performing experience as I could get. Literally anything I could get, I would do, whether it was being an extra on film sets, whether it would be a couple of commercials, where it would be kind of like corporate role play, a singer in like a wedding band, function band, that kind of thing. Anything that would give me experience and a chance to increase my skill set, and also to have some credits down on the CV. So at a certain point in time, when I was ready to do it, then I wouldn't be starting from scratch.
I mean, that does seem like a very sensible idea. How did you find that, the whole juggling? Because I think that's something that actors even now struggle with, sort of the whole day job versus trying to keep their skills up and the experience, getting those credits on your CV when you've got rent or mortgages to pay at the same time. Did you find there was sort of a trick to being able to juggle the two, to balance the whole thing?
Not really. I think I went into it all without an ego. So I just knew that I needed to get experience to be able to build up a set of credits and a set of experiences. And so from the position that I was in, I would do anything. I'd dress up as, a giant teddy bear, to do teddy bear's picnic when it's like 40 degrees in heat and I'm nearly passing out. But it was a job. It was an experience. It was something that I had to take my ego out of it and just learn and earn the right to build up a career in the industry. So yeah, there was no trick to it. It was just making myself very busy and doing whatever I could. And then eventually, to cut a very long story slightly shorter, I then got to a place after 5 years where I was ready to start potentially giving it up for acting. I then got cast in a UK tour of The Who's Tommy for Bill Kenwright. So that was my first professional job. It was also the first professional job for some other interesting people. Young lady called Rachel Tucker that you might have heard of, maybe.
Yeah, certainly.
You might have heard of a young man called Lee Mead.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, there's quite a decent MD called Stuart Morley. It's his first gig as well. It was the job in which
Collection
Rachel.
of firsts, then.
Yeah, it was a lot of us kind of starting out. So that was like a 6-month tour. God knows how many years ago. I dread to think, probably 15 years ago. Then this is where the story gets a lot quicker. So I did Tommy. Then I did the official Blues Brothers show, which was a European tour. There was in 2 legs, a little summer tour in which I was cast as Elwood, which is the taller one who plays the harmonica, not the short fat one, although I could probably these days, sadly. I To be able to play one of the brothers in the previous tour, you had to go as ASM and understudy to both brothers to learn the show effectively. So I did a short summer tour in Germany predominantly, where I was an ASM, an understudy, which is again another really fantastic way of learning the other, not just the acting side of things, but the other jobs involved. And it gave me a much better appreciation of everybody else's role within
absolutely.
the production.
And I definitely think that's the more skills that an actor can get like that. If you can learn what it feels like on the other side of the table, it makes you be able to understand the process a lot better. So I imagine that gave you a whole wealth of experience.
Yeah, 100%. So I did the summer tour as the ASM, and then came back to do a panto, and then went off and did the winter tour of Blues Brothers playing Elwood, which was like 6 months touring Germany and Italy and Denmark, places like that. It was great. It was a fantastic show. Then I went straight into Les Mis in town. So it was my first West End job, where I covered and played Jean Valjean, which was at that point quite a big deal for me, because it was kind of the role for guys in musical theatre at that point, arguably still is. And so it was a huge honour and privilege and a great pride to be able to play that role as an understudy, of course, but to get on and do it was great. I then, after a year there, went into the first cast change of Wicked. So Wicked had been open a year, and then they had their first cast change, and I went in there, and I was there for 3 years. I was understudy to Dr. Dillamond and the Wizard for the first 2 years, and then for the third year, I played the role of Dr. Dillamond, who is the goat professor, for reference. After 3 years there, I then went straight into The Lion King, where I was the walking cover for Scar, Pumbaa, and Banzai. Another 3 years there, and then I went into a show that didn't last very long, despite its title suggesting it would. It was called From Here to Eternity. It was a really good show. It just didn't quite find its audience, I don't think. But it was the first time that I was able to be part of something from the beginning.
Sometimes I think it's just a case of the right time and finding, the niche audiences. Sometimes you just got to work out exactly when to release, so it's possible.
Yeah, possibly. And the story was set on the backdrop of the attack on Pearl Harbor, and it's a very American story. And I don't know if it found its audience here somehow. I don't know, but it was a show in which I was able to have an input in the creative process, and so it was a show. It's probably the show I'm most proud of being involved with, because it's got a lot of more of me in it than the other shows, because the other shows were much more prescriptive. Stand there on that and say this like this, whereas it was much more organic in From Here to Eternity. So that lasted about 6 months, and then I went straight into Billy Elliot for the last 2 years that it was in London. That included the Billy Live thing. I don't know if you remember that far back, but they did a live broadcast to cinemas around the world, which was really, really nerve-wracking. Because you're doing something every night on stage, and suddenly there's all these cameras there filming you and sending it out live. It's crazy. And then that was my last show in musical theatre when that closed. So we're talking 5 years ago, I think. And that was around the time so there was a bit of a crossover. 2 years previous to this, my wife, Melissa, who's also one of the partners of CKG, was an agent for ages. She's been an agent for like 25 years. And 2 years prior to when I was in, I think, the end of Lion King, it might have even been, she said, "What are you going to do next, acting wise, after Lion King?" I was like, "I don't know, just audition, do another job." She said, "Yeah, but what about that? I mean, what's the long-term goal?" I said, I don't really know. She said, "Have you thought about, being an agent?" I said, "Well, I haven't really, but let me think about it." And I thought about it. I thought, well, I understand business because of my 5 years experience in sales and marketing. I understand our industry, and I understand the job of an actor. And so, having watched my wife be an agent for so long, I'd sort of noticed that role as well. So it kind of felt like a good choice. So,
and I imagine that because you had that experience, like you say, as an ASM as well, and having done those other bits, even taking part in the sort of creating of that show that you were talking about, it's quite useful that you've already had a few different areas of the industry that you've touched on. So I imagine then going into working as an agent, you already have that little bit more experience of different parts of it.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, for a while, I used to do quite a lot of audition reading. Pippa Radian used to use me to read in auditions for some of her shows, which again was a fantastic perspective to get from the other side of the table. Although I had no real input in the decision process, I was there hearing it and seeing it happen, which was great. So I decided that I couldn't stop being an actor one day on the Friday and start from scratch being an agent on the Monday, because there needs to be a segue, like a transition. And so for a couple of years, I started Mel basically let me set up my own client list at the previous agency to cut my teeth. So for 2 years, I was doing that, but whilst performing full time as well. So it wasn't ideal, but it was necessary. That
sounds like a very busy time for you.
It was kind of busy, and we kept having kids. Just always, having kids. There's 4 now, and constantly had kids. It's just something we've done. So we're bringing up kids and having a full time career in the West End and being an agent as well. It was busy, but it was not unpleasant in any way.
I suppose if it's work that you enjoy, that helps.
Yeah, when you're doing a job that you love, it doesn't feel like work. So I did those 2 years. I was doing both, and then when I stepped back from performing in Billy Elliot, that's when I decided I wanted to do it properly. Now the agent thing, not just half agent, half actor. I wanted to be an agent, and towards that end, I wanted to feel, the sense of ownership that I felt on From Here to Eternity. I wanted to feel that for the company that I was an agent for, and rather than
of course,
keeping as just being an agent at the previous agency that my wife ran, I wanted to start something from the ground up. So myself, Melissa, and another agent from there at the time, Steph, had a chat and decided we were going to create something new, taking the things that we liked about the previous company and making some changes to make it work for us. So we were fortunate enough to have this amazing opportunity. We were 3 people with a lot of experience in the industry and good relationships, but we had the opportunity to start something new from a blank piece of paper, and just to be able to build something up from the ground upwards and completely. It's a horrible corporate phrase, but like kind of blue sky it. Actually think, what is our dream company? What do we want our company to stand for? What do we want to be known for? What do we want? What sort of people do we want to work with? Just literally, what is our ideal, perfect scenario?
And it definitely feels like you've achieved that now.
It really does. It feels that we're achieving it. I don't think we're never at a point where we stop and pat ourselves on the back and say, "Oh, we've done it now. We're amazing." I mean, that's.
Well, I suppose it's always a process.
It's always a process, and everyone's a work in progress at any one time in their life and career. But I'm proud to say that we do stand for everything that we wanted to then, and we still want to now. And I'd like to think we are known. I like to think we have the reputation that we wanted back then.
Absolutely.
And then December, so where are we? A couple of months away will be our fifth birthday, which has gone really, really quickly. And so for the last 5 years, excuse the musical theatre pun.
I think everyone's going to break out into song now.
My sole focus has been Cowley, Knox Guy and our clients, and I'm still an actor. Like, I haven't fully retired. I just don't do theatre anymore. I still do the occasional bit of filming work here and there. It keeps my toe in. And
there's no reason why you shouldn't, if you can manage to balance it.
It doesn't impact negatively on the agency at all.
Yeah, and I think that's such
a focus-wise, but actually, it arguably makes me and us.
Sorry, I think there was a little delay.
Yeah, go on. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I think that's such a wonderful thing that, particularly this year, with everything that's been going on, we've had so much in the news about how freelancing isn't the way to go at the moment, and I think it's nice to show that you can actually create this sort of successful portfolio career, if you like, of doing a bit of everything, and you don't necessarily have to pin yourself down to one thing, and you can make it work.
No, I don't believe that anybody should be defined by their job or their gender, sexuality, race, religion. Nobody should be defined by anything. We should all have the opportunity to strive to reach our goals, whether they're kind of in life or in career and business. We vehemently believe that nobody should have a ceiling.
Absolutely.
Everybody should to achieve what they want to achieve.
So fast forwarding then to March of this year, and of course everything changed. We had this, this huge lockdown. The industry, I mean, some would argue the industry basically shut down for a few months there. There was hardly anything coming. Do you feel like this year your role at CKG, your role as an agent, or maybe even as an actor as well, when you do those bits, do you feel that's changed? Do you think have you faced sort of new challenges this year, or are there different ways that you're now working?
I mean, obviously, it's been a very challenging year for everybody. Everybody has had to learn to adapt. Fortunately, our business was set up to be adaptable. It's one of the things that we put on that blank sheet of paper. We work as a three, so it's not any one person's responsibility to do everything. So we work very much as a team between the three of us. We don't separate the areas of the industry either. We just look after our clients between the three of us. It creates a really healthy team environment in which we're able to discuss everything between us and work together. We don't have a staff, so we don't have assistants, so we don't have a board of directors or anything like that. It's just the three of us. So we didn't have to furlough anybody or make any redundant, and we didn't have to make any changes like that. We just started working from home and having to do things digitally rather than in the flesh, which is obviously not as good, but it's what we had to do, so we did it. But as far as our role with our clients are concerned, funnily enough, nothing really changed, and I'll explain why. When we work with our clients, we don't just look after their career. We don't just look after the actor. We work with the person. We look after the person, and so we build really strong, close relationships, partnerships with our clients, and they're our friends, and they're our family. It sounds really cheesy. It sounds really cheesy, but that's how we see our clients as part of our family, and we want like them to feel that too. So as you said, the industry then kind of stopped completely, and so for us, taking the business side out of it, having nothing to talk about work-wise, for some other agents might have been difficult because they might not have had that actual personal relationship with the client to then have to talk about anything else. For us, it was just, well, then we'll just be here for them as people, and we'll just make sure that they're okay and check in and do regular kind of group Zoom chats. And when everyone's doing Zoom quizzes, well, yeah, we were doing that as well. Everyone's got Zoom quiz fatigue. But we were doing that, and we were trying to. Sorry, excuse me. Phone is going. We were trying to keep morale up and to keep everybody connected and try and keep everybody together as much as possible. So in effect, our role didn't really change. But then over time, as things started to kind of move towards coming out of it all before we went back in again, we then we're having to remind or encourage our clients to maintain a state of match fitness, of readiness for when you are back into rooms again, auditioned again, that you're in a position to maximize those opportunities, because not only will you be 6-7 months since you last worked, you also be going up against another 10,000 people who didn't need a job last time around, but haven't. So it's now a more competitive marketplace as well.
Which I think is actually a really good point. It's sort of, if we've got any actors watching today, do you have any tips for them for what you would recommend that they try and do in this time to, like you say, to get prepared and to be ready and at match fitness?
I mean, things like this, for example, is a great example of the kind is how the industry has adapted and offered so many fantastic online opportunities of workshops with casting directors or directors or, you know, creatives and stuff, and just either in a Q&A basis or actual kind of you know, self-tape feedback or audition feedback, etc. So there are loads of different workshops that have been available online, and we've encouraged our clients to kind of look into those. As an actor, everything is research, isn't it? So I suppose it's about trying to be creative as well, using this enforced hiatus as a positive, and try and think about things that you can want to create for yourself. Now, even the things that you create, whether you write something or you choreograph something or write some music or write a song, whatever it is, even if that never gets kind of performed or picked up, or you earn the money out of it, I think it's great for your mental health to have that creative output.
Absolutely. And I think even the process of creating it improves you as an actor or as a creative. It doesn't necessarily have to go anywhere. I think that's an important message, that we don't necessarily have to create this stuff to be successful with it in any kind of financial sense.
No, not the monetization is not the same as success. It's a different thing. Success is is satisfaction. That's what success is. And if you can create something yourself and go, look, I've created that, I've done that, I'm really, really proud of myself that I've done it, then that's its own reward. And anything else you get after that is a bonus.
And I think sort of changing that mindset of going, you have to do this stuff to get famous or to get followers or to get money out of it. Sometimes if you just sit back, those things will come if you find the right thing that really makes you tick as well.
Yeah, 100%. Because if your goal, if your motivation is to be famous, for example, when are you famous enough? When do you achieve that? That's not an achievable goal because it's not a tangible thing. It's not a real thing.
Of course, and it's not something you can measure either. So one person's version of this popularity would not be the same.
Completely. We work in the most unscientific industry in the world. It's subjectivity. It's just a bunch of opinions and ideas. That's all it is. In other industries, you know, you would work hard for one company and expect to be promoted within it and move up this kind of trajectory. You would hope that in some industries that it was scientific, that, you know, 1 + 2 = 3. In our industry, 1 + 2 = kettle. Like, it's not. There's no mathematics. You can't look at statistics. They don't work in our industry because it's just a bunch of opinions. So, absolutely. Yeah, it's a strange one.
So basically, the message is get yourself online, get yourself creative. That's what you need to be doing in this time. Use the time for your advantage.
Also, or not. If you are in a place you think, do you know what, I just need to live my life for 6 months and get off of the gravy train for a little bit. I've been doing this for 15 years and I've been chasing my tail. I actually now want to put myself first for a little bit and just ignore the career side of things and look after myself. That's equally as valid.
And I think it's all about finding that balance.
I don't think any. Yeah, it's finding what works for you. And I don't feel that anyone should feel pressured or made to feel bad if they haven't been as active as other people. That's their journey. And I think if you remember back in early lockdown, this industry seemed to really galvanize itself. It seemed to be, if you look, take social media, for example, it suddenly became a really positive.
Definitely be a blessing and a curse, I think, with social media over this time.
I agree completely, but back in the early days, it was very positive, and I think that's because the element of competition was taken away, because everybody was in the same boat. There was nobody more or less successful than you or I. We were all on a level playing field, and so
and I think sometimes there's that idea of not doing it to be noticed, just doing it as I definitely felt a sort of sense of community, a sense of celebration of our industry at that time, when people weren't putting that stuff out just in the hopes that, you know, casting director XYZ would see it. They were putting it out there because it's what they love.
Yeah, 100%. So, like you say, social media can be a blessing and a curse, but certainly during that point, it was a really positive place. because of that level playing field. So I think it's the sense of competition that then leads to potential negativity.
Interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting way of saying it, because I think that sometimes the competition is what can drive people to, really achieve their goals, or to fight to get that extra whatever it is that they're looking for to get those jobs. But sometimes the pressure of that competition can be the exact thing that drags us down.
Exactly, because we can't do anything about the decision process. All we as individuals can do is do our very best with the opportunities that we're given to deliver what we believe to be our best performance or delivery, and everything else is out of our control. It's you've done your. I always kind of say to people, you go in that audition room or whatever the equivalent is in your life. Do everything that you feel reflects on you in a positive way. Come out of that room, say to yourself, "Good job," and then move on. That's it. That job, I've finished that task. What's next? And then forget about it, because then anything you hear after that is just a bonus. But you were given a task. You completed the task. You did really well. Proud of yourself. Great. That's a win. Doesn't matter what happens. That's a win. What's next?
Definitely.
What's next?
And I think that's a very important message. Sort of moving on. So you've obviously said about that you have such a fantastic relationship with your clients and that you all work very closely with them. So if somebody was looking in towards getting an agent, how do they work out if an agent is a good match for them? What do they need to look for?
That's a really good point, because it is about which agent is the right agent for you rather than who's the best agent, because you're comparing apples and oranges. We're all different, and so it's about finding the right fit. And I think these days there are quite a lot of resources available to do that research. Back in the day when I was first looking for an agent, I mean, you'd have to try and look on teletext for any kind of, this is before the internet, you see. No, it wasn't quite that long ago, but, there weren't a lot of websites around. If they were, it would just be a list of clients. So you're able to now do a bit of research online. I should imagine 95% of agencies have websites, and hopefully people put some information about them, about their setup and about their belief system. Maybe we certainly do on ours. Social media, people's social media accounts. You can sometimes learn more about a company through their social media output. Every agent is on a sliding scale of, at one end, kind of cold, clinical, corporate, businessy types, all the way along.
We don't have many of anymore.
Well, yes, hopefully. And at the other end, the very informal, family feel, very, very friendly side of things. And everyone's on that scale somewhere. And sometimes through their website, through social media output, you can get a sense of whereabouts that company might sit on that, a sense of their personality, I think is important. And then you could then, especially if, like, for graduates and stuff, you've got resources at wherever you're training, the faculty, the people who work there, previous graduates, other people who are represented by that company, et cetera, et cetera. So if you dig around enough and you speak to people in the industry as well and get a sense of where the agencies fit, you should be able to get a sense of which agents you feel that would be the best for you.
So it's not so much a tangible thing that you should be looking for, do they do this or that? It's more about the feeling, doing your research, sort of trying to find what sort of an agency they are, kind of how they deal with their clients more.
I think so. I think it's a vibe. I think it's like finding a partner, like finding a friend. You could write down a list of things that you want to find in a best friend, right? These are a list of things that you value in a person, and your ideal best friend would have them. Then you could meet someone with all of those things, ticks every single box, but there's no connect. You just don't connect. It's not the right fit. It doesn't feel that that's going to be your best friend. And then you can meet somebody else who maybe ticks a couple of those boxes, but actually on some of them there's massive crosses going through. But you meet them, actually you vibe and you have that connection, and actually they become your best friends. So it's as I said earlier, it's not scientific. It's good to have an idea of what you think your ideal agency looks like, but
be flexible with that.
The tangible things, the actual things that the real things, rather than I want them to be able to guarantee me certain auditions, and I want them to get me this role or get me in front of this director. Those are not things that anyone can really promise. It's more about which people do you want to work with? Which people do you want to collaborate your career with? Which people?
I think that's something we should remember, that it is about collaboration. It's about learning to work with the agent, and it's not just a sort of one-sided relationship here, because I think that is something that we tend to forget. Possibly not when we're working with an agent, but for those that are applying to an agent, you've got to remember that it's sort of both ways.
For us, it's a relationship without hierarchy. Nobody is anyone's boss. We are in partnership with our clients to help them build a long-term successful career in all the areas that they want to work in. I can't speak for every agent. There may be other agents out there who feel that that's not the case, and that there is a hierarchy or there is a chain of command, but not the way that we choose to work. Great.
So if those sorts of people, if they found their agent, they think, okay, this agency would be perfect for me. What would you suggest is the best way to go about approaching them? What materials would they need to sort of bring firsthand when they're introducing themselves?
Sure. Well, once you've done your bit of research and you've selected the 1, 2, 5, 7, 10 agents that you are interested in, then I'll send them an email. I would, within your research, just make sure that you're at least knowing who you're writing to.
Absolutely, definitely name the email.
Some people pet hates it, the dear sir, madam, or to whom it may concern. Takes 2 seconds to find out what's the names of the people that you're writing to. So, dear whoever, and then just introduce yourself. Just, it doesn't need to be an essay or a life story like I've given today. It can just be, this is me, a little bit about me. These are the sort of things that I want to do going forwards. I'm writing to you because, and then the reason why, is it because you follow us on social media and I really like this about you. I noticed this on your website that really appeals to me. I know 2 of your clients and they say this about you. Whatever that thing is, say what it is about that agency that appeals to you. And then maybe talk about why you think you're the right fit for that agent as well. It is a 2-way conversation. It's not a sales pitch from you as a performer to try and sell yourself to an agent. It's a introduction. This is me. This is the sort of stuff that I do. I'm really interested in you because I think I'd be great fit for you, because here is my information. Here's my spotlight page. Here's my show reel. Here's my vocal reel. As much information. If you haven't got a show reel, here's a self-tape that I did last week. I hope that gives you some reference. I don't have a vocal reel, but I'm happy to maybe just film myself singing something if that's useful to you. I think as much information as you can give that positively reflects your skill set, that I think that's really useful.
I think that actually leads us quite nicely onto one of the questions we've had from our viewers, which is, so Caroline says, thank you for doing this Q&A. A quick question, would you offer representation to someone who isn't on Spotlight? So one of the things you just mentioned when you're sending that email, here's my Spotlight link. If there is somebody who isn't on Spotlight, perhaps another thing to go with that would be sort of, what do you suggest they do in terms of getting themselves onto Spotlight? If they're not on Spotlight, how do they go about that? Would you offer them representation without it?
Yes, we would, and we have. We don't go, our kind of recruitment process, if you want to put it in those terms, we don't have any rules. We don't have any restrictions on that. So there are no red flags. We take each individual on their merits, and each person we look at with a fresh pair of eyes, and we take everything into account. We don't say, we can't consider you if you're not this, or you haven't trained. If you haven't trained, we can't sign you. If you haven't got any credits, we can't sign you. We don't work that way. Everybody, like I said earlier, everybody is a work in progress at any point in their life and career. So some people, if they're not on Spotlight yet, maybe they haven't trained, but they might have a really raw talent. They might be someone who is going to going to be successful, but haven't had the chance to do it yet. They might not be on spotlight for financial reasons as well. Listen, look at the pressures that we've all been under for the last 7 or 8 months. So that's another understandable reason to not be on spotlight. So we wouldn't discount someone because they're not on spotlight. It would be something we would have to approach and manage and work towards either getting them on there or work towards how do we introduce you to casting directors in a different way. We can.
That's a very interesting sort of way of looking at it. So for you, spotlight isn't the be all and end all. You can sort of have many other positive traits that you could be signed with and then work on the spotlight thing later, perhaps.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, it's a really, really useful thing to be on, and because 90% of the industry kind of is on there. But if for whatever reason that's not possible right now, then it's something we can work towards another time. Like I said earlier, being on spotlight it's not like a blue tick on Twitter. It doesn't verify you as a person or a performer. It's just an online breakdown service in which casting directors and producers are able to see who's interested in their jobs in a really easy way. I'm sure there are lots of very successful actors who aren't on spotlight. So
great.
It's not the be all and end all. It's something that we would advise as much as possible to get on there, as much as we would advise everybody to be members of Equity, etc. But it's not a contractual obligation that you have to be on these things in order for us to consider working with.
Great. Well, hopefully that answers your question, Caroline. So it is not the be all and end all, which I hope will be very reassuring to those who aren't on it already. I'm sort of sticking with that same theme of clients when they're applying to you. Is there anything that particularly would make a potential client stand out and make you go, okay, this is the kind of person that would work well within our agency?
Well, the way that the way that we approach it is we don't have a shopping list. We are not actively looking to tick any boxes. Our books are never closed. I don't really understand that position. We are always, our eyes and hearts are always open to meeting new people, always. But we don't have a list of things that we are looking for at any one time. So we are just open to being interested in someone. You would go to a showcase, who jumps off that stage? We'll watch someone's show reel. Oh, wow, we really think they've got something. It's not, sometimes we have the lexicon to articulate what it is we like about a person. More often than not, I don't think I have the language for it. Sometimes I just think, wow, I just think they're amazing. They've really got something.
Same thing as you were saying about the potential clients looking for an agent. It's the same thing from your end, that it's just that feeling, that vibe of looking for the right type of person that would match well.
Yeah, our starting point is our passion in a performer. And do we feel that someone's got something that's really exciting or interesting or edgy or I don't know what the word is, just something.
Yeah,
that's the starting point. But again, it's purely subjective. The three of us could think someone is absolutely incredible, and other agents can sit next to us and go, I don't know what you're talking about. I think they've got nothing at all. They're completely, bland and blah, blah, blah. So for us, we have to start with us believing in someone's ability. We
so
can't
all about finding that.
We can't be. Yeah, we have to start with our passion. We can't think about, I don't think they're very good, but I know that this casting director would really like them. We can't start there because that's not the right starting position for us. It's about who excites us.
You have to believe in them. Yeah.
Yes.
And hopefully then if you believe in them, then that will translate towards the casting directors or the directors who will then meet them as they go through their career.
Absolutely spot on. Exactly that. But then the performer side of it is only kind of 50% of the deal. Because as I said earlier, we don't just look after the performer, we look after the person. So alongside us being passionate about them as a performer, we then meet with them and we have a nice chat and we decide whether they're the right fit for us, the right personality, whether we enjoy working with them, because our clients represent us as much as we represent them. When they're working or going to auditions, they're wearing our badge. Don't have to wear a badge, by the way. That's just a metaphor.
No, but that's definitely true. That the clients have sort of something to say about the agency, and I think panels often will sort of judge the agency by the behavior almost of the client that they send in.
We want to work with people who share our foundations, our belief system. We believe in integrity, we believe in honesty, we believe in respect, we believe in a mutual trust, and so we want to work with people who believe the same thing as us, because then we're going to have a brilliant relationship. We want to be able to enjoy the company of the people that we work with. We've sat down and had meetings with some incredible talent and some incredibly successful people that we're really excited about meeting with, and then we've come out of the meeting and gone, just not our sort of person. It just won't work. And so if that bit's not going to work, the rest of it won't work. It doesn't matter.
And I imagine that they probably feel that too, that those types of meetings where you go in and you go, you know, it's like you said, all the boxes are there, the tick boxes are there. But if the feeling is not right, I imagine that client would be better off finding a different agent as well, where that feeling is there.
Yeah, 100%. And we're always honest about that. And if we say we just don't feel it's quite right fit for us. So that's equally as important as being passionate about somebody as their talent. Also want to really, I mean, fundamentally like the person. We want to fundamentally enjoy the company of the people that we look after. Because we're in a position where we can choose who we work with, and so we can choose to work with certain types of performers, but we also want to work with certain types of people that we can trust. We are entrusting them with our company name as well, which is very personal to us. You know, literally, our company name is our mother's maiden names. That's where it comes from. It's personal.
Oh, I did not know that. That's very interesting.
Yeah, where Knox Guy comes from. It's very personal to us, and so we have to be really sure that we're entrusting it to people that we believe in, both as a performer and a person.
So moving on to, we have a very interesting question here from Katie. Now, Katie says, "Hi, David. As a deaf actor, how can I express to agents that I can play roles that aren't deaf? I have a decent CV and recently nominated for the Stage Debut Award, but not getting much response."
Okay. Hi, Katie. It feels like from our perspective, the industry at the moment feels like it's working really, really hard to be really authentic in its casting and to really have more diversity. And I don't just mean diversity as a buzzword of racial diversity, but diversity in the broader sense that film and TV and the stage should reflect the patchwork quilt of a society that we see in our streets every day. And so there has been, for a little while now, a really positive push to get representation from all communities and backgrounds and able-bodied people and disabilities, people with disabilities, etc. So in a positive way, right now, it's a kind of good time to go into the industry as a deaf actor, because there feels like there's more opportunities for deaf actors right now than there were in previous years. But equally, as I said earlier, that you shouldn't be defined by your hearing impairment.
Definitely. And I think any agent that looks at that and does define you as, oh, they're just a deaf actor, that's definitely not the right match for you.
No, you're not a deaf actor. You're an actor. You're not even an actor. You're Katie. That's who you are. And so when you're writing to agents and you're asking how to express that you can play different roles, how you express it is just express it. Just email and say, listen, I know I'm a deaf actor, and so yes, I will obviously be seen for deaf roles, but I don't want to be defined by it. I believe I have the ability to play non-deaf roles as well. And these are the reasons why. And here's an example of me playing a role that's not a deaf role.
In those sorts of circumstances, so I know just from an anecdote from speaking to James that he's met Katie personally, and he is very aware of the fact that she is perfectly capable of holding a very quick conversation, that you would never know that she was deaf. Would you say that something she could possibly highlight to agents is that she's worked with certain people already who possibly could give her a sort of reference for that sort of thing? Would you think that's a useful thing to do, or is she better just coming in by herself, independent?
I think both have their are valid. Both are valid choices. I think that whenever you as an individual are writing to somebody else to introduce yourself, if you're able to give some other people's opinions to back up what you're saying, I think that's always going to be a sensible thing to do. It's always going to be sensible to say, this, don't just take my word for it. This is what I think, but these people have seen me do this before, and they've said this about me, and this person, and please feel free to speak to them because they'll back up what I'm saying.
Of course, and you have to remember that everybody backstage is connected. Everybody knows everybody. So if you do throw in a name, they're very likely to be able to just ring that person up or send them a message and say, "Have you worked with this person? How did you feel?"
It's not about people then checking up on you to make sure that you're telling the truth. It's not about that.
No, of course not. But if you feel like you are struggling to get that validation,
it's like providing a bit of evidence that what I'm saying isn't just a pipe dream. It's a real thing that I can do, have done, and these are people who can back that up. So yeah, I would be really, I would impress upon you, Katie, when you're writing to agents, really stipulate in that introduction what it is that you're looking to do, because I'm guessing you don't want an agent to sign you because you're a deaf actor and to just play deaf roles. And by the sounds of what you're saying, that's not what you want. And so as much as you can in that introduction, explain what it is you want to do. And then the right agents will respond positively to that. The wrong agents won't.
Well, thank you very much. Hopefully that answers your question, Katie. Of course, feel free to put another comment in if you want to clarify anything. Now, we've got one here from Eloise. We sort of touched on this briefly, but just to come back to it, she says, "Hi, David. Thanks for doing this. Are you currently taking on actors, or is it better to hold off writing till the industry picks up?" Now, I know you obviously mentioned already about always keeping, your eyes open, your ears open, looking out for the right people. What do you think? Is it a good time, bad time to be writing to you, but also to agents in general?
Obviously, I can't speak on behalf of other agents particularly, but during the certainly during the lockdown period, arguably it was a good time because an agent's life is busy. We are running around here, there, and everywhere, watching stuff, meeting people, etc., and a lot of that was taken away from us, and so we did have the opportunity to actually sit there and I'm talking generally for agents, and read emails maybe that you wouldn't have had time to read before in as much depth, etc., and to actually have Zoom meetings, etc. So you can make an argument for both things as well, because also other agents were furloughed and they were told not to work, so they couldn't take meetings, they couldn't sign clients because they weren't working. So I suppose it's all different for different agents. For us,
possibly it's that thing of why not try? And if you don't get a response, just understand that there may be a very good reason for that, like furlough, for example.
Some agents right now are holding off signing new clients because they want to focus on their own clients. Makes total sense. Some other agents are like, right, I've not earned a wage for 7 months. When we start back up again, I want to make sure that I can earn as much money as quickly as possible. So actually, I'm actively looking to increase my client list so I have more opportunity to earn money. That is a valid choice for them. Other people are just business as usual. We will continue to take everyone on their individual merits. We don't change any of that because we're in a global pandemic. We want to work with our clients for their entire careers. So if we have to wait for a few months until we can get them out there, then we'll just wait for a few months and then we will build that success thereafter. So for us, it's been business as usual. If you believe, Eloise, that you have found some agents that appeal to you, then I would absolutely write to them now. They will respond in one of three ways: positively, negatively, or not at all. But from that, hopefully the right agent will respond positively, and you'll be able to kind of discuss things from there. It could be the right agent is out there, but they're just not looking to take people on at the moment, but you've made that connection. It'll be a case of, okay, great, I'll get back to you maybe in a few months. I'll keep you updated with my progress, and hopefully we can chat again kind of in 4 or 5 months, etc. But nothing wrong with making that introduction now.
That's a really great way of looking at it. Definitely. Why not just try, and then if they don't respond now, perhaps it's not the right time for them. But you can always try again. There's no harm in sort of looking again in 6 months or a year when things may hopefully have settled down a bit.
Yeah.
We have about 5 minutes left. So if there's anybody else who would like to put a comment in to ask David a question, then please feel free to do so. There's always a slight delay with the questions coming through, so I'd recommend putting them in now so that we see them before the end. Of course, we focused quite a lot today on sort of those people who are approaching agents. They might not have a spotlight yet. We've talked about that. What about for those clients who are already signed, perhaps, or they're already working a lot? A sort of question for them. How often do you suggest that your clients update headshots, show reels, voice reels, sort of anything like that? Obviously, we know that if you get some drastic change to your look, then that's immediately. But if there's no sort of real change, do you have a ballpark for how often you would recommend that?
Our approach to that is the whole thing's an entirely organic thing. So we're constantly looking at people's spotlight pages and seeing if their headshots are working for them, if their showreel working for them. Can we make sure the skills are all highlighted properly, etc. And we do that in conjunction with their ability to get into the rooms they want to get into. If a client is getting in all the rooms they want to get into, getting every job they want to get, then there's no need to light a fire under their new headshots or their new showreel, etc. In the moments that they're finding it difficult to get into that particular room, okay, let's sit down and talk about it. Why do we think there's a difficulty there? Could it be headshots? Yeah, arguably. So maybe we should look at getting some more of those done. Could it be? Do you have a scene in your showreel that's right for the kind of stuff you want to do? Not at the moment. Let's look into that. So it's not something that we have a definite answer for. It's just everything's constantly under review. God, I sound like the government. Everything is under constant review, and we always talk about where on the spotlight page can we improve a little 5%? Where are the little 5% that we can tweak? Because a little 5% tweak can sometimes have a huge impact. So
there's no sort of timeline for it. It's literally just how are things going for you?
Too scientific to say once a year on the 1st of April we get new headshots. I mean, it's just you have to be able to be adaptable and you have to be fluid in what you do to be able to react in the industry, and also to be proactive to what's coming up in the future.
Oh, so moving on to something which is a slightly different one. For anybody who's watching out there who maybe they're an actor, maybe they're not an actor, but is sort of taken inspiration by your career and has thought, you know what, I think I'd quite like to try being an agent myself. Do you have any sort of advice for budding agents how do they start out? Where do they start? Do you feel like your contacts as an actor helped you?
It's a funny old one, isn't it? Because I mean, there's no agent training. You can't do a course on being an agent. You can't go to university for it. No, I don't believe there's any kind of drama school who have even a module on being an agent. It's something that people kind of fall into or start by writing to agencies to be like an intern or an assistant, and then learn their business and learn the job through that. But you could be an intern at one agent and then go to another one and have it's like a different job. It's like literally a completely different career, because there is no one way to be an agent. There's no rule book. It's just
that does make things difficult for starting out.
The three of us decide what works for us, but yeah, I mean, it would be great if at some point, drama schools did have that side of the industry covered in their course, and maybe there will be courses in the future for that kind of thing. It just depends. There aren't any kind of obvious ways of doing it apart from writing, trying to get experience working. Same as casting director. It's how do you go into casting?
Maybe there's a business opportunity for someone in there, though, if you're listening. Some training for some agents and a blueprint for agents and casting directors, maybe. We've just got one final question, which I'll bring up to finish off with, and then it's going to be time to go. And it says, if I don't get any positive response from agents, should I continue sending emails? It's been quite a struggle. I'm a Greek actress in the UK. This is my first attempt at contact. Any advice?
Well, I mean, you want to strike a balance between staying in contact with people that you believe are the right agents for you, and overdoing that and over bombard them. No, you don't want to bombard them. And I would probably, if you haven't had anything back, then maybe wait until you've got something new to say. Whether that's, I've just got new headshots, so I just wanted to show you these. I've just got this new show reel I wanted to show you. I've just done a self-tape I'm really proud of, and I'd like to share it with you. But have a reason to get back in touch. Have some new information to add to your submission, is what I would think say.
That's a great piece of advice there. So don't just constantly contact them. Make sure you actually have something tangible to say. Great. Yeah. Well, it is actually time to go. So I'm going to say thank you very much, David. Any sort of final parting words before we leave?
No, not really. You're very welcome. Nice to meet you. Nice to, well, not meet any of you, but just to talk at you for an hour. Yeah. Very nice.
I'm sure that a lot of people have appreciated this whole thing. So thank you very much. I'm going to take you out of the stream now, but don't go anywhere. Just stay in that little backstage area and I will be back. Okay, so I'm sure that a lot of you found that very informative and very useful. It's so great. I mean, he's so lovely, isn't he? Just so easy to talk to. Don't forget, we've still got one more session here at Collective Creative Initiative for the end. We've got some lovely comments coming in, so I'll just put them up and hopefully David can see. So Katie said, spot on, thank you very much, really helpful. Eloise said, thank you. I think that was when you answered her question. Richard has said, excellent session. I need to leave a bit earlier, so he's just saying thank you a bit quickly there. We've got Yota saying thank you so much. Samantha also saying great session. Thank you both. Oh, they're flooding in now, aren't they? Julia, thank you. So many. I'm just going to flash them up super quickly to everybody. Well, thank you very much for joining us all. Don't forget there is yoga for singers at 3 o'clock with Rosie Secker. So if you're joining us then I will see you then. And if not, have a great rest of your day.